Is the story bleak? No. We would like to encourage the government that they can take a different approach. Let me give you an example. Supposing if you had an agricultural association that had membership around the whole country. Supposing in all 774 local governments, if you were to find 15 or even 10 good farmers who are able to teach others how to farm successfully, and you are able to certify them, you can create a formal job of people who can train and create other extension farmers. If each of those 10 extension farmers who really understand how to farm their crop in their area had 3 mentees each, who are also tracked by the government and certified at the end of their program, you would have 10 plus 30. That's 40 in every single local government. Supposing those who wanted to sell inputs to the farmers were encouraged by their associations to come through these extension farmers. These extension farmers will have additional income from not only training other people, but also distributing inputs. They will be able to add an extra income and make their training sustainable. It means that government doesn't have to be the one trying to create extension workers for the farmers. The farmers can deal with the problem themselves. The government can make sure that the new mentees have access to, if it's transportation, loans from banks where they can get this done. But you multiply 30 plus 10, that's 40, times 774 local governments, and you'll be coming close to 30,000. And you can actually do that in the space of 1 year. So if you really wanted to create jobs, because right now it's a ratio of 1 extension worker to about 9,000, 10,000 farmers, you could totally change that in 1 year. So what I'm trying to suggest is that yes, there's difficulty with jobs, but jobs can be created if we think differently and more innovatively on the question of jobs. So where does that leave us? I would say in my scoring, on the issue of security, I said between 3 and 4 out of 5. Issue of corruption, between 2 and 3 out of 5. Issue of jobs and the economy, between 1 and 2 out of 5. So that leaves us a scoring between 40% and 60%. That is where I would put the performance in the first year. Now, by scoring the performance in the first year between the 40% and the 60%, am I saying change is not possible? No. What I think I haven't mentioned is the impact of politics on the ability of this regime to actually succeed in what it's doing. If we see the kind of struggle that we have had between the National Assembly and the executive over the issue of the budget, that has been a major impediment to progress. And it's not an impediment that we can look away from. If we look also at those who packaged change, the APC election machinery that made us stop looking at our president as an old general and started looking at him as a desirable leader for change. We don't see that kind of professionalism around him on a day-to-day basis. So is it all bleak? The fact that I have scored the administration between 40 and 60% in their first year, does that mean that the situation is bleak? I would say no. It doesn't mean it's bleak. It just means that certain things have to be taken into account if the administration is going to make the impact that they're looking for. The first thing, In the lead up to the general elections, an old general who was accused of all sorts of human rights abuses was transformed into the desired, the desirable leader, the man for change. We bought the packaging, we loved the packaging, and we took it hook, line, and sinker. But now that he's in office, is the veneer peeling off? What happened to all of those who packaged the man? Have they fallen away? Why don't we see a continuation of the communication, the beautiful communications that we saw around elections? Why has that not continued? That suggests to me that there is a rift. Perhaps I'm reading too much into it. It suggests to me that the same people who are behind the electioneering are not the people who are behind the operationalizing on a day-to-day for running government. It's not the same people. At least that much, it says to me. When you see the sorts of people who also were put into position, there has been the accusation that there has been too many northern people put into office, and that if the APC represents the interests that brought the president to power, shouldn't there be greater diversity in the people who were appointed to office? That also suggests to me that if there were elections held today, as we have seen factions in the PDP, will there also be factions in the APC? Will there be factions behind the Senate president? Will there be factions behind Bola Tinubu? Will there be factions behind the president himself? At least 3 different camps. So when you look at how much politics the president has had to contend with, then perhaps 40 to 60% is not that bad a result for the first year. So can change come about? Yes, if the president would bother to engage the different stakeholders that will help him and join hands with him in the fight against corruption, he will get greater response and record greater successes. So you know what there is. Since he is a president who has the political will to fight corruption, I will suggest citizens do what you must do. So if the citizens are able to identify what kinds of things they can do to bring about change, if they do it, this president is not going to come and crush you. He may not pat you on the back, he may not say anything about what you're doing, but he will be helping his cause. So for you to get change in the area of corruption, you need to get together and do what you must do to stop corruption in any way that you have leverage. This is not to say the government doesn't continue to have its own responsibilities. It will do. Let's look at jobs. I think this is the opportunity for us also to be innovative. If we find ways, we should document those ways, send it to the job creation unit in the vice president's office. Let it be that we sent them suggested policy changes, that we send them analyses of policy, that we send them ideas, because again, this is not a hostile administration. It is an administration that is probably a little encumbered by all of the happenings around it, not the least of which are the economic trends that they just cannot buck, which is that oil price is not within their control, how much money we have as a country is not within their control, and the fact that we are running a government that is mostly on recurrent expenditure, which is probably why most people shunned the call by the unions to come out on strike. If the states can't pay 18,000, 19,000, 20,000, but you've decided minimum wage should now be 45,000, how reasonable is that? If on the basis of subsidy, we have lost a lot of money to corruption, and you say, no, in fact, you must reverse it and we should continue with the subsidy, how will we see an end to it? When will the change come? So I think that the people are already voting for change in their own way by not agreeing to be part of the strike at this time. The issues may be different tomorrow. And if there is an issue that resonates with the people, I feel certain that the people will be out on the streets in support of Labour. So it shouldn't also be a negative reflection on Labour either. It's just an advice for Labour to carefully consider the framing of the issues to make sure it can still encompass most people in society. What's the prognosis for the future? We have to deal with the security situation. It's not over. It's not over. And there is a nexus between politics and the violence, between politics and the insurgencies. Not engaging is not an option. The president has to engage. Sadly, he has to engage a lot more than he currently is doing. If we're going to have people feeling a lot more included and for them to feel that their voices are being heard, he would need to do a lot more on communications and engagement. On the issue of the economy, I think that there are some strategic things that can be done by this administration, such as the ones that I've illustrated, and I would suggest that they take those ideas on board, or similar ideas to those. You don't have to agree with me. You should always have your say, and we're really looking forward to receiving your feedback.